Welcome everyone to the Moreno Valley Writers Expo 2020. We're so glad that you can join us to support local authors and to celebrate the art of writing. As a reminder, please make sure that your microphones are muted and that your videos are turned off to minimize distractions for the presenter. If you have any questions for our presenter, please type them in the chat box and we will pass them on to her. If you need any tech support or help, ask Charmaine Mendez from the Moreno Valley Public Library, and she will do her best to assist you. Now I'm happy to introduce our guest speaker for this session. Dr. Pamela Cotton-Roberts is an entrepreneur with her own performing arts home provider business, administering child care that promotes child development. She has over 35 years of diverse experience in California, Michigan, and Illinois schools that span from kindergarten through college in teaching and administration, as well as leadership training for Michigan State University. Dr. Cotton-Roberts is a retired full-time assistant professor at Azusa Pacific University in the Department of Teacher Education, School of Education and Behavioral Science Studies, and is the author of ABC Word Book, I Can Count Amazing Things, and 90 Days of Inspirational Thought. Welcome, Dr. Pamela Cotton-Roberts, and thank you for being here.
Good morning, and thank you for having the opportunity, let me have the opportunity to come here and present my books that I'm very excited about. I want to make one correction. I'm no longer an assistant professor at Azusa Pacific University. I'm a full-time, I am retired, but I do have my own performing arts facility. But I'm going to get started this morning, just thanking everybody for coming in and having the chance to listen to me as I present my books. I'm going to start off with my very first book that I wrote exactly 10 years, right when Obama became president. And it's called 90 Days of Inspirational Thought. I wrote this book because of life experience. And as I find writing books, it helps me to just brainstorm about my life experiences. So 90 Days of Inspirational Thoughts. In this book, it has the fruit of the spirits. And the fruit of the spirits include love, peace, joy, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, goodness and self-control. So in this book, I write about my life experiences with my family, with people that I encounter, and just life. And I really wanted to write my book. I wanted to be a person, an author. So I went through coaching, and I had a guy named John Trent who kind of showed me how to get prepared in writing books, and it became successful. So in this book, 90 Days of Inspirational Thought, I have inspirational language that's going on in the books. I have poems in there. And actually, at the end of every section, well, the fruit of the spirit, I included a reflection page. In this reflection page, you can go over your own prayers and reflection, your daily thoughts, and so forth. Just writing things down, because I find writing things down really helps people. My second book, as an entrepreneur and a teacher, an educator, I work with children all the time, 24. As I leave here, I'm going to work with other children. So my second book was inspired by my children, my students. And we do this. And we read books all the time during activity time. We go on nature walks and we find things and we bring it back into the center. And so this book was inspired by words. And, you know, we use words all the time, and words is just all over the place. So I'm going to explain a little bit about that in a minute. But this book was inspired by my children, and we wake up funny things and we laugh about them. So that's interesting. So learning words, and here in this book, I'm going to show you like This one is admirable aunt. And we're using the letter A, and we're using descriptive words, adjective. The ad is admirable. And then we write things about it. The admirable aunt, tiny but extravagant, making sure his family food supply is very sprightly. So those are the type of things that we do use in this book. I just want to give you a little illustration of things that we have in the book, in this book. My next book is I Can Account Amazing Thing, Account of Word Books. And in here you see all types of picture. And I believe in pictures because even as pictures, we learn how to express ourselves, and I'll elaborate a little bit more about that as we go on. So I have my PowerPoint ready to be presented. Charmaine, if you're ready for the PowerPoint, I can present details of what I'm going to express today in my presentation.
Can you see your PowerPoint on the screen?
I cannot see it.
Okay, it says why I write and publish books. What do you see?
Everybody can see it then, right? I just can't see it. Okay, the first one is just welcoming you to my presentation. And the next slide, should talk about, does it talk about how children use their imagination? Do you see that? I can't see it.
The audience mentioned that they can all see it.
Okay, so are you on the first slide? Are you going to the second slide?
Oh, we're on the slide that says why you write and publish books and help children.
Okay, thank you. The first one is why I write and publish books is because working with children and people in general, it helps the, children and people use their imagination. As we grow up, we have a very vivid imagination, and then we read books and we don't see the pictures. And when we don't see the pictures, we use the person that they describe in the book or the setting of the picture in our head, how we see the person as they look, as they give descriptive of it. So helping children use their imagination, they come up with their own creative ways to use their book, their imagination when we're writing, when using pictures. And we're going to talk a little bit more about picture books. The second part, it says it lets parents be a part of the activities. I think that parents being involved in what we're doing, and as I work with the children, I work with the parents, and then the parents come back and say how they use pictures and things that we discuss in our center and their daily activities. So parents getting involved with the children activity is very important to help those imagination and creativities grow. And then the next part is have fun being creative. I know when we were children, I think my brother and his wife, Pam, are on the phone on this presentation, and he can tell we did things and we had fun with being creative. My mother was a storyteller, and my father, he told stories too, but he was more creepy. My mother was very creative, and she told us stories. We went camping. We spent our weekends camping and going places. And then family time was sitting down and making up stories. And my mother would make up stories using us in it. And we'd say, Mom, finish telling us the story. Tell us more about the story. So I find using those same things I grew up with, children are very fascinated about using stories and involving them. So being creative is very nice. And then it helps the children. As I introduce it to them, we become creative. And that's how all the books get formed, because they're very creative about adding on to the story. And then I'm going to touch on this a little bit more, but it helps develop learning styles. And there's 3 main learning styles that it helps incorporate with learning. And I'll talk about that a little bit more during the slides. The next part is having legacy. And my family, as I said, my brothers, younger brother is deceased now, but he's an artist, and my oldest brother is an artist. It's so strange that when my older brother was in second grade, he had drew this picture on the blackboard, and when they took their class picture, he had to stand by his art. It was a huge picture on the back, and I still remember that paint, that artist thing, and he was in second grade, and the teacher was fascinated about his art. So those are the type of things that the legacy that we carry on through our family. I know my daughter is an artist as well. She loves drawing, but she hasn't tapped into it as much as they do. And my brothers haven't done it. Well, my younger brother, before he passed away, he was doing a lot of artwork. But that's if you see that in children, that's why I have a performing arts, because you have to develop not only the core curriculums, but the arts in it as well. And when you incorporate those, that and the legacy in your family and whatever, it carries on. So that's very important. We can go to the next slide. Are you on slide 3?
Yes, about picture books.
Yes, picture books are very important because we see, if you see, even if if your sight is gone, you still vividly see things. So from infant, toddlers, and preschoolers, you tell stories by looking at pictures without words. And then you put the book in front of the kids, and they would sit up there and they would tell you a story in their own ways. So creating picture books is very important. At the elementary stage, kindergarten through 5th grade, when you're looking at words, they start becoming a little more sophisticated, and they're looking at words and they're using words and sounding out words and developing these words. So that's important. And the 5th grade, as well as the next one, middle school. Middle school students use visual, auditorium, and kinesthetic learning styles to comprehend instruction. And not only middle school, I added adults. So if you're clicking on it comes up, Charmaine, click on each one and it'll bring up each one of the fields that I'm talking about. The adults also have those learning styles. Now, for example, I can use me as an example because I'm always doing things and putting things together. So if someone's reading I get a box, say I'm trying to put a clock together, and the instructions come. Just someone reading it to me helps, but what helps me more is looking at the instruction pictures that comes with the instructions, looking at the pictures. So I can hear it, I can read it, I can see the words, and I can put it together. And then we all learn by doing the kinesthetic style. So those 3 things are very important. So go to the next, and I'll go to the next slide. Okay, so I talk about the visual, click again, and that's when you use objects like picture books and seeing information. And then the second, click again, Charmaine, is the auditorium, where you retain information through hearing and talking and reading. And then the last one is the kinesthetics, like to use your hands-on, that shouldn't be hands-on approach to learn new things. So those were the 3 learning styles that most people use. Go to the next slide. The next slide. The next slide. How did that get in there? These are a few of my future authors. These are the people, the children that helped me create the 3 books. And I have a new set of children that are helping me create the books. So with all of this, and all these creativity, go to the last with the reference. It helps us to do it. Where you can purchase your books, my books can be purchased at Amazon.com. And I also have a website if you want to know a little bit more about my school. Is PMPerformingArts24.com. The other thing, we're done with the slide. I just wanted to point out, I can count amazing things. This is the last part of my presentation. If we can get off the presentation and come back to me in the book. Are we back on to me, Charmaine?
Yes.
Okay. This book is very important to me because my father always wanted to write a book, and I co-wrote this book with him, Walter Fred Cotton Sr., because we had to watch Disney, Wild Kingdom, all kinds of Animal Kingdom programs. My father always told us stories about the Wild Kingdom because he grew up in that kind of setting where there were all sorts of animals out. So I Can Count Amazing Things is very interesting because it's counting pictures, and there are pictures, all kinds of pictures, 7 pictures or whatever. But the last page is where he gave his the dragonfly. There are 20 dragonflies on this page, but we talk about infinity. The dragonfly sees all around. He sees all parts. He sees everything, and he never stops seeing. Even though the eyes are in front, their eyes can go all around. And this is one of the things my father brought up into the attention. Even though we count, counting is infinity. It goes on and on and on. And that's his contribute. He has so much to contribute. He's very knowledgeable. He builds things, and he doesn't have to use all sorts of measurements because he uses it in his head. He uses it by illustrating from animals and things we can learn from. So I just want to point out writing and reading is very important, and it builds up literacy. And to get children involved, I think picture books and for adults, children, even the older kids, having something in front of them visually, and then they can read it and get them started to reading is very important. So I'm going to conclude this presentation with my writing is a learning experience for me, but it's getting people and children to be creative in what they're doing, from writing inspirational thoughts to writing children books. I do enjoy writing, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Have a blessed day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Pamela Cotton-Roberts. Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to put them in the chat box.
Okay. Any questions? Oops. Well, thank you, Dr. Pamela Cotton-Roberts, for that wonderful presentation. And yeah, imagination, so important to encourage that in our children. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, we see a question here. Do I need to read the question, or?
It's about how inspiring it was. Thank you, Tiffany Roberts.
Tiffany asked, what inspired you to write your first book?
My children. My children inspired me to write my first book. I was always going to workshop and presentations and all sorts of things pertaining my children. And then, you know, I wrote journals all through my life. I write journals, and I just look back and I saw things in there where, you know, there were prayers and reflections and things. So I indulge people in the 90 Days of Inspirational Thoughts, and to writing their own stories and things. So reading books and reading other people's thoughts. And there's this one story that I have wrote in the anthology, and I know my daughter, she wants to do one. And this book right here, it has inspiring things about people's stories and people, what they've done. And this one is very important because when I was in college, like my last year of college, I was working on doing my internship, and I had all these classes, and I worked at the university, and we pulled our classes, and we went around, we shared our stories. I mean, our classes, what we're taking. And when my friends saw what I was taking, they were like, you can't do that. And I said, this is just an example of it. One thing that inspired me to writing. They said, you can't do that. And I'm like, why? They said, because you can't take all those classes and go to the field and teach and then come to work. And I said, well, oh, okay. So I went home And my mother was reading the daily word. My grandmother had just passed, and she had my grandmother's daily word. And when I walked in the door, I went into my mother's room and I said, I did something and I don't think that I'm going to make it this term. And I said, this is my last term. And I had waited to the end to do this. And my mother didn't say anything. She took the book and she just took the book and threw it at me. And it said, let go and let God. And I took it into the room and I read the book, and it says, you can do anything through God who strengthens you. And, don't let people tell you what you can't do, you do it. So that term, I didn't do what they said. I just felt it in my heart to do what I read about, let go and let God. And that term, not only did I enjoy going to classes every day teaching students, but I got straight A's. Had I listened to my friends, I would not have known the journey that I was going to go on, which was a journey that was of excellence, that inspired me. And I saw that that's where my gift, my strength was. So reading, writing, and journaling has always been an inspiration for me. And so my daughter she has a story to tell you. Everybody has a story to tell. So when you get a group of people, like people in this picture here, the people on the pictures here, and the people in the back, we all had a story to tell. And that was one of the stories that I told in here, battles that we fought, but we got through them. We overcame those obstacles. So that inspired me, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Pamela Cotton-Roberts. Well, we're out of time. Can you close us out, Sharon?
Yes, thank you so much. That was so encouraging and insightful and extremely inspirational. So thanks to everyone in the audience for being here. Our next speaker at 11:30, and it's almost that now, will be James Harris. So we hope you can join us for that. Please let us know if you need help registering for that session. And everyone have a great inspirational day. Thank you.